Well,
Okay.
good afternoon or good evening or wherever, whatever time it is, wherever you are. People listen to these things and watch these things at all sorts of times. I'm Joseph White, and with me are Todd Whitley, who is the executive director of the Masterwork Foundation, and Robert Hoven, who is the executive director of the Friends of Beattie-Powers. And they are one of our Masterwork community grant recipients this year. And so Mr. Hopen is here to tell us all about Beattie-Powers, the house, and what all the great things that you're doing.
Oh,
Hey.
before he does, I'm going to chime in and
Oh,
say the Masterwork Music and Art Foundation has been around for over 60 years, supporting
Oh,
excellence in the arts in many ways. Today, they offer a Premier Award, which is a $10,000 grant that goes out to an artist or an arts organization in a specific discipline. This year's awardee was Camille A. Brown in Dancers for the work I Am, which just recently premiered. We also give out a number of community arts grants for organizations just like the Friends of Beattie-Powers that really seek to involve and inform the communities around them about the arts. And of course, we have this interview series hosted by our beloved board member, Joseph White. But today we're very happy to have this conversation with Bob Hoven, a man of many talents and vision.
yes. Okay.
well, where can I go from there? Well, so Beattie-Powers is really a property of 7 acres that was a bequest to the village of Catskill in 1991. It had been a much bigger estate years before, but the village accepted it and reluctantly because it contained a 1836 Greek Revival mansion that was in bad shape and property that really needed attention. But there was a lot of attention that was given from several people within the village, and they kind of aligned themselves as the friends of Beattie-Powers. Okay. And so they were persuasive and it was accepted. But it kind of was like a property that was not fully developed right away. And then in 2005, the village decided they wanted to rent out. They wanted to lease the whole property to the Industrial Development Corporation of the county, and that's when everything became. Everybody coalesced to defy it and
I
stop it
was
from
going to
happening.
say, I can hear the sounds of panic from
Oh yeah,
all the
and,
years later.
and admittedly, Joe, it's in an area where I've driven by because it's set back, and I drove by for 2 years and didn't know where it was.
Right.
And then a friend of mine said, "You need to look at this and look at what's going to be happening," and it all kind of evolved. Okay, and then the friends became a big viable group that presented a financial plan to the trustees of the village that we would take care of it and we would absorb all of the expenses. And I'm talking about everything,
Right.
and within the park and in the house. And it really needed restoration. Okay.
Right.
And they accepted it, to our surprise. And it was like a big audience that voted and to do it. And then they asked me if I would, be president of this group. And I was like, commuting back and forth from Catskill to Manhattan 5 days a week, and like was like, oh, so I have this little house and property I'm gonna be working with now, and that's the beginning, and how I and then when I walked into it because I'd never been inside, it was like this intimate space where I, excuse me, clapped my hands and said, "What a great atmosphere to hear music."
Mm, exactly. The
Exactly.
Yeah. And well, I was going to say we actually have a story in the town that I live in Connecticut. We had a very at the time very famous architect named Cass Gilbert. This is around the turn of the 19th to
I
20th
know
century.
exactly. I know who Cass Gilbert is, of course.
And he had his weekender here, and so he gave the town a stone fountain. And the only problem was the town didn't want it. The town had wanted a horse watering trough instead in that location. And it was finally accepted by the town. I think it was built in, I want to say 1902, and it was finally accepted by the town as a town thing in 2015.
Cass Gilbert, too, and Cass Gilbert was the master designer of the Metropolitan Museum.
Oh, and the U.S. Supreme Court.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's a big
but
deal.
yeah,
And the library, the New York Public Library.
oh yeah, and but at any rate, it only took the town 100 years to find. But and the problem they had was that during that 100 years, the fountain had become the symbol of the town,
Ah,
and so I don't think they felt they had much choice at the end. And they put a beautiful glass dome over it for the winter to
okay.
protect it, and fill it uh, with fake flowers for Christmas, and it's a big deal. But again, this is they really were kicking and screaming, dragged to accept this thing that then became the town. So and it's on everything you see about Ridgefield. But
Not everybody knows what they need. Yeah.
well, yeah, and the horse watering trough is still there. It's about a block away, and it's they dogs can now get water there.
That's great.
Yeah,
That's great.
at any rate, it's but so I we have a bunch of pictures so that people can get a sense of how beautiful this site is. And the first one here, and this is going to take a second. And I'm going to share my screen.
Good.
And uh, okay, we don't need audio and we don't need video optimization. So this is the house at Sunset, which is incredibly spectacular. But actually, it's kind of like that. It's not complete unless you see this too, which is
Which is what's before it. That's what it's facing. Okay.
yes. Hmm.
And the house as you see it on the opposite side is an exact replica of what you see on this side. So
Really? Huh.
yes, really,
Okay.
that's what really makes it unique. So there's 6 columns on this side, which you've shown, and there's 6 columns on the other side. It's a really unique construction and design.
Well, and they understood that. Well, I wonder now, did people arrive up the Hudson to visit in the days when this was a mansion?
Well, yes, I would think so. The man who built this house was a man named um, Powers. Okay,
Yep.
and he was a senator. He was a state senator, and James Powers was the big funder for the Susquehanna Railroad.
Ah, okay.
Also the Catskill Mountain House.
Okay.
That preceded this. Okay, and he was a state senator. He was a chairman of Green County Bank. He was also Martin Van Buren's colleague in college.
Hmm.
So he came and owned a lot of property in this area, but built this kind of a summer space for him.
Right.
And hillside you see in this photograph was when we came to work on it was covered with just masses of junk trees. But it was once an orchard that went all the way down to the Hudson River. And the Hudson River is down below the hillside. It's a great view.
Mm. The no, I was going to say that nature reclaims things that aren't tended,
Yes,
and
they do.
and more quickly than one can imagine. Sometimes I have another couple of pictures which I'll share. The This is what you were saying about clapping your hands. Here are some people
Mhm.
taking advantage of that sound,
It
and
is. And
uh,
we have like 25 events annually.
mhm.
And we started out when if I go too far, you let me know, okay, please. So
Okay.
when I first saw this place, I thought, what a wonderful place to do music,
Mm,
and which is what I used to do much earlier. And I made one call, and that was to Bob Martin, the director of the Conservatory of Music at Bard.
mm. Okay.
And Bard, the conservatory was new, and Bard, he was glad to have a place as a venue for performers
Mm,
that are, and this is one of the groups they sent us.
mm.
Okay, and they sent us 4 to 5 groups every year, and continue to do it since 2006.
Mm. Okay.
It's quite wonderful. It's a great conservatory, and it was an incredible amount of luck and chutzpah on my part.
Okay.
All
Yeah,
of
but it worked.
it worked.
I was going to say, and on the other hand, a group like this would get lost in their new Frank Gehry designed opera house.
They sure would. Yes, they would. This is a space that holds maybe 50 people, which
Mm,
is really great, and it's an ideal place to hear music.
mm,
It really is. And when I first, thought about doing music here, um, I knew that there wasn't chamber music or classical concerts in Greene County, really. But Bard had things, okay.
right.
And I thought, let's take a chance and have an opportunity to do some things. And I was lucky that they said yes. And then we got additional performers. And it just kind of became much bigger through the years. And and I was really lucky, Joe. I had a group of board members that just kind of went along with me and believed in doing something like this. And our mission was to serve the community and
Hmm.
offer things to the community to enhance their lives. And that was our goal.
Well,
And we try to continue to do that.
well, I was going to say that, and this particularly strikes a note for Masterwork, because the Masterwork Foundation started in 1954 in the living room of Mrs. Shirley May, who lived in Whippany, New Jersey, and just looked around and said, "There's nothing here." And now, yeah, okay, so this is 60 years later, and that's not really true anymore. I mean,
I
there's
felt
actually,
that 20 years ago.
yeah, and but out of that same motivation came the organization that, listen, I auditioned for their chorus in 1962 at the age of 14. So uh, but there are a lot of places, and I just think that it's wonderful to create. I'm listening here, and I hear something of what I I've said a couple of times about Shirley, that she was one of the. I've only known a couple of people, and I'm beginning to think you might be one of them, who, if people say, "Gee, there ought to be whatever," all the time. And most people, that you'll hear that and you'll go, okay. And then there are people who, if they say there ought to be something, well, you'll come back 2 weeks later and there's 10 people working on it in an office.
Mhm.
And so that's we need y'all, because
Well, I
nothing.
was lucky. I was lucky, like from almost from the get-go, there was a large group of people that wanted to make things happen.
Mm,
And and I was lucky. I had a friend in the um, council for the community that knew there was $60,000 available for restoration that we could get
Ah,
from
okay.
Athens Generating. And if it hadn't been for her, we couldn't have started. And that really, because the house was peeling,
Yeah.
the
Oh,
property was covered with you know plants and trees you didn't want, invasives.
yes.
And that's Linda Overbrow, who was a legislator who helped us do this. And Linda helped us get it started, and then I had a good group of board members that just people wanted to save this place. And then, I had been doing this for I think a year, and we had a potluck luncheon, and my old friend Todd Whitley walked in,
Mm.
and my old friend, my good friend, um, and he was able to help us a lot and has been part of our group, which is wonderful. You forgive me for that.
Okay. I'm sure he will. He'll be back. The well, one of the things I also enjoy this picture because uh, we have a historic venue, actually two historic venues in our town, and this is one of the ways that they can keep going
Oh
because
yeah, yeah,
because it's a beautiful place and it's a wonderful atmosphere, and people want to have events in their
they
lives occur
do.
in
They
places like
do.
that.
And
And
we're hoping to get weddings because we're an ideal site for we're a historic property, and that's always a little tricky for
yes,
things like weddings, and weddings are often very large. But what you're looking at is a fundraiser dinner, and
yeah.
we only do fundraisers once a year, and then at the end of the year we hope donors will give us their end of year donations. So
Mm.
we're dependent on donors, and we're also very lucky that NISCA, New York State Council on the Arts, has been helping us a lot too, and recognized us within the last couple of years.
So if anybody out there is looking for a wonderful event space,
This is
this
it.
talk to this guy, and you should
Call me.
probably, and I'll offline, I'll give you you should talk to the head of our the Keeler Tavern here, which is an historic space that has done very well by the wedding thing. Um,
Okay.
that was Cass Gilbert Summer House. So
Okay.
anyway, uh,
Sure. I love that.
they may be able to help with how you get around not having it interfere
Sure.
with the historic nature of the place. But anyways, let's do, I have one more here. Ah, okay. And so artists get to show their stuff here, and they're so people make beautiful things, and you can go see them. And there was one other picture I wanted to share, and it's actually back at the beginning of this series. So it's the next one because it's something upcoming.
Yeah,
And hold on, I'm gonna make that bigger. So you're being visited by the Clearwater,
we are.
and this is
And we have a lecture with them the evening of the tour that we're offering, which is free.
mhm,
We always we try to, my goal is always to do things that bring things of benefit to the community, which is our part of our mission.
mhm,
And I don't mean just we started out with music, with classical music, but we've evolved and done more popular things, which we need to do. And this is a community that is a very, very diversified group.
yep.
And so we're doing Indian ragas in a concert coming up. And that's, I mean, and there's an Indian population here too.
Yeah.
And we're also doing Clearwater, which is a wonderful thing to do, and it's free. And then they'll do a lecture afterwards.
Right. So this is August 24th, and if
It
you're
is.
interested, give us your website, please. Is it
It's a lower key, all lowercase, BEATTIEPOWERS as in Sam .org.
Okay.
all there.
And, because if you're
It's on
interested in,
Instagram. It's on Instagram too.
okay. And well, everything we now have to, I have to keep looking to see what new social media thing has has mushroomed up while I wasn't looking. But
I know.
anyway, so this is just wonderful, and I'm just delighted that you could join us, and I'm delighted that we were
Me too.
able to help with your
You guys
ongoing.
have been great. It was listen, we're really grateful to get donations from you guys, and I've followed what you do with awards to performers, and I think it's a wonderful thing to do. Good
Well,
for you.
our thought is that for a lot of people, the transition between student to professional uh, is
Mhm.
it's the most difficult part of the whole thing. It's harder than the hours of practicing. Um,
Right. That's a
and
cool. When I first started out, and I was really lucky early. I got grants. I got money to support me,
mhm,
and and I couldn't have done things without that. You know,
right.
it helped me do performances, and it was something I did for 10 years, and then I found the light. I found the light, and I found the right financial light, which was interior design, which
Mm,
was.
right.
But before that, I was a performer. I was a recitalist.
Mm,
So when I saw Beattie-Powers and looked at it, it was like, this is the place that, I would have wanted to perform in.
right. So, anyway, I'm gonna
You're probably
ask
running out
Todd to
of
come
time.
on back. I was going to ask Todd to come back, and I actually have been told that we've been missing something, and I'm going to do this before I hand it back to you, which is
Okay.
I'm told that you must say these three magic words: like, comment, subscribe. So please, all of you out there, do that, please. Anyway, and back to Todd.
Thank you, Joe. And a huge thanks to you, Bob, for all you do with Beatty
My pleasure.
Powers. It was wonderful to hear more about it and about yourself here. I should also know that you're actually sitting in Beatty Powers right now.
I am
Mhm.
Yes.
sitting in the
So
library.
a
I
peek
tried to
inside.
position myself so that but it's impossible to do lighting. Joe, you did it right with lighting, and I couldn't. But
That's
I
all right.
am at Beatty. Beatty's like, so this is a comfortable place to be, but it's a really wonderful place to hear music.
Wonderful.
Well, I'll just
It
repeat again to stay informed about all of the events and things going on at Beatty Powers. Go to beattypowers.org and subscribe. And you can go to masterworkarts.org to stay informed on all that's going on with the Masterwork Music and Art Foundation. Thank you, Bob, and thank you,
Thank
Joe.
you.
All right.
And I hope you have a wonderful editor to help you with this.
Oh, no, no, you're looking at him. And
It's a wonderful edit.
Thank you, Todd.
hey,
Thank you,
anyway,
Joe.
all right. So